One Man Show. You are watching the One Man Show. Ooh, One Man Show.
One man. It's the One Man Show. Shh. It's the best kept secret. I produce things in secret, you see. So I've got to be quiet. Hello. It's starring me. Yeah, me. Hello. So, what are we going to talk about today? Well, 14 years ago, this month, I was lying in hospital with blood poisoning. I'd gone down to 10 stone. I couldn't see myself in the mirror. Until I got out, of course, and then I did. And I looked like somebody from a Japanese prisoner of war camp. I walked into the house, and on the left side there was mirrors. About 4 mirrors put together, you know, the long ones. So as I got in, I looked on the mirrors. And I got the biggest fucking shock. Because I hadn't seen myself for 3 months. Anyhow, I guess I'd recovered. Even though there were things going on that I knew about, but there's nothing I could do about. And I've suffered in somewhat silence for 14 years. But I recently came across a site on Facebook for ulcerative colitis and Crohn's. And for those of you who don't know, it's an ulceration. I guess that's the best way of putting it. It's an ulceration of your digestive tract as well as your intestines, your small and large intestine. And 14 years ago, I had my colon, the whole lot of it, my large intestine removed, my rectum removed and stitched up, so I could never go gay, and a bag put on my belly. But the journey itself I want to share. Yeah, and I'm sharing it personally because of this group. Where back in '96 I was stressed beyond belief. Although I was also still taking oxytetracycline. And oxytetracycline is a low dose antibiotic drug for acne. It made my teeth go a bit yellow. And they say that my bones in my body will be yellow because of the dye that they put in it. And after I came out, the doctor said, he was looking through a manual, and he said, oxytetracycline might create ulcerative colitis. Oh, no, that isn't your situation. But it stuck in my mind. Car, take cover! What is it with cars coming down here? How dare they? But anyhow, I went to the toilet one day and splattered the bowl with blood. Literally splattered it with blood. And I went, oh, friggin' hell, what's all that about? The doctor came, suppositories and all the rest of the stuff. And it gradually got worse. It got worse because the ulcers within my colon created mucus. The mucus hit my rectum area and the nerves went, you need to go to the toilet. And it got worse and worse, to the point where I was living on Imodium. But by taking Imodium, that's the anti-diarrhea drug, but by taking Imodium, of course, it builds up, doesn't it? And then it would come down in one almighty explosion. Well, not an explosion, but one almighty dump. and I'd be out and about in the shops, as an example, and I actually shit myself. I think it was 4, maybe 5 times. Or I would be on the toilet for about an hour and a half, straining, cramps, in agony, crying, sweating. And then when the body decided there was nothing actually in there to cramp down upon, I could sort myself out. And I couldn't sit down. I had to lie down. And nobody understood. Absolutely nobody understood. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. My ex-wife, yes. But I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. Anyhow, around about 99, I was put on a drug called azathioprine. And azathioprine was the best drug that they could give me, but I reacted to it. Because by this stage, I had a season ticket at the hospital because my body was just collapsing. Anyhow, I reacted to this azathioprine. My face was sweating when I was out there trying to do work, and I went to see the consultant and he said, "Would you like to come in?" No, I bloody well wouldn't like to come in. Anyhow, 2 days later on the Monday, I put myself in. It was unbelievable. I was on the bed next to the toilet because I was never off it. And I don't know if anybody's ever experienced it, but my body actually started to digest itself. I went from 18 stone that I am at the moment, hoping to get to 17. I went from 18 stone down to 12 in a week. Believe it or not, within a week. And I couldn't drink water. I had to chew on water. I had to bite on the water and swallow it as if I was eating it. And then they all stood round my bed and they said, "I'll never forget it. Not only are you ill, but you're ill. And we need to operate on you to make you well enough to have the major operation." And it was on such an emergency that the surgeon within Darlington Memorial, his surgeon time had run out. So they had to bring in an emergency surgeon from Bishop Auckland. And on a Saturday morning, I think it was 8 to 10 hours of surgery, they removed it all and put a permanent bag on my belly. And unbeknown to me at the time, I was then put in an induced coma for 4 days to allow my body time to adjust. I remember coming round and seeing everybody who I knew, well, nearly everybody I guess that I knew, stood around the bed. Looking back, I wonder had they turned up because they'd been told I wasn't going to make it. Anyway, I'm going up a hill now, so my breathing might get laboured. So, I was on morphine and all the rest of the stuff. In hospital for 10 days. The stoma started to work, in other words, it started farting, so I was allowed home. At the same time, my wife had started having an affair with a guy from where she worked. And she took great pleasure in telling me. Because who could ever love anybody that was now a freak? Anyhow, I got out. 3 days later I was back in. I'd caught an infection. My blood had poisoned. Because nobody bothered to look at the stitches on my arse. Because they'd come away. And there was a hole apparently big enough to put my fist in. Although I didn't see it. And I didn't want to see it. So I rushed back into South Tees Hospital, transferred blue light to Darlington, and I was in there for another 3 months. I can remember the hallucinations. The hallucinations where I will swear on the Bible. Car, take cover! I will swear on the Bible that the Grim Reaper came to get me. Came in through the window of the ward, went down the ward with only 8 beds, 4 either side. It came back at the end of my bed. And I recall saying goodbye to everybody. And that I was sorry that I'd given up the fight. That I'd chosen to crash out. But then I remembered my son. I remembered my boy. And I said to this apparition, this thing that was at the end of my bed, piss off. I've got a son to bring up. I've got a boy to look after. And the weirdest feeling then happened. It was as if a switch had gone dink in my body. And it was actually, I've just recalled, August bank holiday. So next Monday, or this weekend coming, was 14 years ago. Because they knew I'd got poison. And the ward sister came to me and said, we know what drug we have to give you, but we can't, because there's no doctors on over the weekend to keep testing your blood. And I laid there thinking, oh well, that's me dead then. Anyhow, it must have been a couple of days after this had happened. And it was as if a switch went click. And all of a sudden I started to feel better. And I got better and better and better. I hated the stoma with a passion. The stoma nurse would come in and say, you need to change your bag, Kevin. And I'd just say, just get fucked. Fuck off. I'm don't want it changing. I really rebelled. Although obviously I had to give in at some stage. They'd taken my catheter out. I couldn't get out of bed, so I weighed the bed. My bag would burst, I'd shit the bed. Fucking hell. If you do one. Anyhow, eventually I got out. And I had a wife who turned around and said, you got out on this day on purpose, didn't you? Because you knew I was going out tonight. I went, you what? Of course, she was going off shagging this guy, wasn't she? I'd just come out of hospital, looking like somebody from a prisoner of war camp, and she went out. And I felt tremendously suicidal. So I said to her that I did. And she said, well, look, if you do, make sure you do it properly so I can get the insurance money. So I asked if she would get her mother to come up and sit with me, which she did. And I couldn't walk. And so I'd get out of the house where I lived in Gisborough, and I'd walk 100 yards, and I'd stop, and I'd literally be like that. My whole body would be shaking. And then the next day I'd walk 2 steps further, the next day 2 steps further, and so on and so on. It's an almighty, horrendous journey that you go on when you have this done. But without it, I'd be dead. Although I nearly died, but without it, I would be dead. Now, it's just second nature now. It's 14 years later. I've been single for that period of time because I'm never ever going to give somebody the opportunity of crushing my heart like she did. Because I loved her massively. And because of not being able to work and bring money in, she jumped on the next fucking erection. I should have known better because she'd done it 3 times before. But there you go. So now I ride a bike, I swim, I power walk 5, maybe sometimes 6 miles a day. Bloody glare in my screen. I have my ups, I have my downs, I have my really deep depressions where I wonder, is it all worth it? But I'm aware of it, and then a few days later I'll come out of it, or I'll get my leg over Beyonce, and because I'm thinking about the road and the cars, my mind isn't focused on feeling sorry for myself. So that's a little bit about my journey so far. Well, only a tiny scratching of the surface. But this is for the site on Facebook for ulcerative colitis. I know what you're going through, and you guys know what I've been through. And hopefully when we feel down or we feel a little bit sorry for ourselves, we can help each other out, we can share. God bless every single one of you. Ta-ra for now.
One Man Show. You are watching the One Man Show. Ooh, One Man Show.